Okay. Let's discuss it. Jeez. It's always intriguing to foray into other fandoms. The more things change, the more they stay the same, I find. Though, each sci-fi fiefdom of devotees, enthusiasts, supporters, disciples, experts, and aficionados have their own special flavor of discussion. In my original breakdown of the Valkyrie Type ship, I got some pushback on the specs as well as a bit of criticism for utilizing blood and chrome. First, canon can be hotly contested depending on the source material. As an example, one of the worst debated pieces of literature in human history would be the Bible. The canon on that book is so contested that there are thousands of different sects that disagree on what it means, and tens of thousands of people have died for the various disagreements. Thankfully, most of the canon I work on is a rung below this, especially when you analyze Star Wars and Star Trek, which have defined departments that determine what is canon. However, when you look at other pieces of science fiction, like Battlestar Galactica, people tend to disagree more and more, and the IP holder is unfortunately silent. Canon, for our purposes, is defined as a general law, rule, principle, or criterion by which something is judged. It includes a collection or list of materials accepted as genuine by the IP holder. Again, when we look at BSG, I haven't found a department comparable to Star Wars and Star Trek. However, we do see indications that everything that is on screen is actually canon, as well as the Deadlock game. This includes blood and chrome, which seems to anger some. Unfortunately, the point of the channel is to have consistency within the franchise canon. For the moment at least, I'm looking at some beta canon options for Trek, but that's another story. Again, this means that what is considered canon by the IP holders is actually canon. The fact that it doesn't make sense or breaks continuity in some way just means I get to either mock it or try to explain it. If I ignore what I don't like, then there's really no point in saying I look at canon. I'm basically a glorified fanfic channel. So while I understand that a lot in the movie Blood and Chrome doesn't make sense, it adds weapons on vessels, it doesn't scale starfighters appropriately, and can be fast and loose with the history, it's still considered to be something that happened. Additionally, many have tried to include the words and images from BSG CG artist Pierre Drolet. While I like his artwork, understand that he utilized some of the original renders and worked with the series and can speak on it with authority. The unfortunate fact is that corporations, and sometimes just individual IP holders, don't care about the employees they hire. When you look at Star Trek and Star Wars, the designs and intentions of the CD artists there are often ignored for the sake of the story. If Blood and Chrome is any indication, BSG is the same way. Now don't get me wrong, I think we should consider his words carefully and take him as a subject matter expert. But unfortunately, for the moment, CG artists aren't the arbiters of what is canon. But again, I actually like his work and he seems like a really cool guy. I'm going to go ahead and include his website below. He has some wonderful pictures of Battlestar Galactica and even Star Trek models. And it's honestly a shame that we can't consider the people who create this stuff to be the ones to know how it works. So with addressing what is and isn't canon out of the way, let's take a look at the Valkyrie and those tubes. A lot of people have stated that the Valkyrie Type has launch tubes. They point to just under the hangar bays, many going out of their way to be pretty harsh, stating, "How could I possibly miss this?" Well, first, I didn't miss it. If you rewatch the video, you'll note I talk about them having missile tubes, and guess which ones I thought they were. If you're going to say I didn't do any research, you may want to ensure that you know everything I've done, lest you be a hypocrite. When I first looked at the way the ship was used in combat, placement of the Vipers and scenes, and breakdown of the weapon systems I confirmed actually were on the ship, these holes appeared to be missile launch tubes to me. We know the Valkyrie Type was in the original war, which means that generally they would utilize dumb ordnance, so missile tubes that fire straight ahead makes sense. The one thing I didn't necessarily consider is the shape of the tubes themselves. I'll admit that the tubes do have a similar shape to what we see on the Galactica, and they do conform with Vipers. Additionally, they are directly under the hangar, which would lead some to believe that the Vipers are fed from the hangar bay into the tubes, which is logical. So let's discuss that. I'll understand if people disagree, but I see no reason for these tubes to be Viper launch tubes. When we analyze them on the Galactica, it makes a lot of sense. In the Battlestar Galactica miniseries, they discuss how if the hangar bays are damaged and can't be retracted, the Battlestar can't jump. This is likely due to the massive damage jumping would happen if the pods were extended. Due to this weakness of needing the pods retracted, launch tubes are logical. You want to get your Vipers out, but not reveal a massive weakness of your ship unless you have to. And even if we assume they always open the launch bays during a fight to get the Raptors out, you still want your Vipers out as quickly as possible, and it takes time to extend your pods. The Valkyrie type doesn't have this flaw, so why have launch tubes? Additionally, the tubes are facing the same way as the hangar. On the Galactica, it launches from the side. It makes no sense to me for these to be launch tubes on the Valkyrie type when you can simply launch from the hangar. G. Hawkins the Grey from the Deadlock Game Discord has stated that there are a few explanations for this. Launch tubes do allow Vipers to save fuel, as the Valkyrie type could launch its starfighters at battle velocity, allowing the Viper to stay in battle longer. Additionally, you could have alert Vipers ready to go, instantly getting them into battle versus the setup time launching from a hangar takes. It could be, and most likely is if they are launch tubes, that the two are being utilized in tandem to launch Vipers and Raptors, so you'll have the hangar launching Vipers and Raptors as well as the launch tubes themselves. However, again, it seems like the equipment to do this would take up more space when you could simply just launch them from the hangar bay. In the time it would take to launch 6 Vipers from the tubes, you could have double that being launched from the hangar bay. What little you lose in fuel is gained in numbers. Look, I'm not saying that these aren't Viper launch tubes, I'm saying that it makes little sense to me if they are. Based on some research, I've been looking into the Pegasus, and it appears the Pegasus does not retract its pods. This could be due to advancements with the newer design, I can't be sure. However, the Pegasus does have launch tubes. I would argue that the Pegasus probably has a different role than the Valkyrie type, which is why it would have those launch tubes, but I wanted to make sure that you were aware of all of the information. In any case, if something is debated or egregious enough, I do try to circle around to address it. As those who were with me when I first started in Star Trek, I do as much research as I can, and I do try to get the things right, but if I'm wrong and mistakes happen, I come back and have a conversation about it. I'm still not convinced that I made an error here, but it is possible, and all I gotta say is, if you're going to eye twitch or say that I'm fracking bad, then just come at me, bro. Come at me.